There's a beautiful mosaic written in words through the Gospels and the Scriptures today that describe this holy day. The full name of this day is Manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles, to the world. The non-Jewish people would be Gentiles. So today was a day that was planned in history. And as we look back to the book of Isaiah, when Isaiah wrote these words, he wasn't aiming at preparing us for Jesus. He was aiming at preparing us for this fulfillment, this Messiah, who would be the answer to our prayers, the prayers of the people of Israel. And in grabbing that idea, he wanted to encourage the people to grab hold of what exactly is going to happen. And he says, rise up, get up, all of you, get up, get up. We have to stand before the splendor of the Lord that's coming before us. No, he wasn't preparing for Jesus born in a stable, not at all. He was just fulfilling a prophecy and reciting a prophecy, but as all prophecy, it's not history in the making, it's prophecy of what will come, and looking at the fulfillment of what the prayer is all about, the prayer of prophecy. And then he describes, as this mosaic continues to be put together, he describes what will happen. This has yet to happen, by the way. All nations will walk by your light, and kings by your radiance. He's telling us, get up, raise your eyes, raise your hearts, your hands, and get ready for this superb event. And then now these are the people of Israel, having been destitute, having been burdened, having been annihilated so many times, and he's telling them, get up. Your hope is here. This is really good stuff. The darkness will fade away and light will come. Knowing, you and I know, he didn't know what was going on years after. He didn't know what the fulfillment would be. And yet, he describes the fulfilling idea of the Messiah as one of radiance, of light, giving light to all people. And as a result of his coming, the wealth of the world would be laid at his feet. And in order to be universal, he brings characters in from all over the world, dromedaries and camels from all ends of the earth. People will bring gifts, odd gifts, wonderful gifts that you and I don't know about, but we use. Frankincense. We just incensed the scriptures. We incense the altar. We incense the nativity. Incense always in antiquity, far beyond we can imagine. Well before the Israelites, incense was used to venerate that which is above all, to venerate the deity. And Isaiah is saying, when the Messiah comes and gives us hope, we will be able to incense him because people will bring that gift. And incense is made from the sap of a tree, a cypress tree. And we will be able to use that gift to incense because who is coming is going to be divine, beyond our imagination. Isaiah would have been shocked as he's reciting this beautiful prophecy to know that the infant coming, the Messiah coming, was going to be born like that, in the stable, surrounded by animals, in hay, in a mangiatore, we call it, a trough, an eating trough, his manger, manger from the French. No, he wasn't preparing for Jesus. He was preparing for the Messiah, not the historical Jesus who came, but we know that historical Jesus who came is the Messiah that he revealed in his lifetime to us. And he talks about kings and leaders. Again, the concept is important because we are still called to evangelize Jesus. We're still called to bring that prophecy to fulfillment in our own lives. As we pray for employment, as we pray for those who are sick, as we pray for peace in our world, we're still waiting for the Messiah to come, to return, because we have the format, we have the instruments, we have the Gospels, we have the word of who that Messiah is. And Isaiah said, when he comes, it's going to be fantastic. Everyone will come to him. So you know, as well as I do, that hasn't hit the world yet. We have so many different ways of getting to God, so many different what we'd call religions to get to God. But the reality is we are the way. We follow Jesus. The church, the Catholic Church, is the way. And all the other civilizations that attempt to find God, they're pilgrims along the way with us. But we have the way, Jesus. We have the fulfillment, the manifestation of Christ to all people. Has it hit? No, not yet. And we're not downgrading any other religion. We're not mocking any other religion, but we see how their attempts, any attempts, going back to antiquity to today, are just attempts to be on the same road that we are on. You and I have access to God in Jesus. You and I have access to the divinity that for civilizations people have been worshiping and trying to communicate with. And you and I have access to that divinity who was born in the flesh and who gave us his flesh in the Eucharist. You and I have access to the manifestation of Christ, the Christ, when we receive the Eucharist, when we bring the Eucharist into our homes, through our lives, through our behaviors, through our words, through our struggle for peace. And as people, we're still doing the things that Isaiah prophesied. We're using incense, we're using gold, we're using fancy stuff to get our heads to believe and understand who the manifestation was of. It would have been fantastic, and that's what made poor Herod. Herod was a paranoid genius. Herod, king of Jerusalem. He was the builder of a lot of Jerusalem. He was the builder of the temple, the great temple that was standing when Jesus was there with his apostles. He was a great builder, a megalomaniac, and a paranoid king. Just to give you an idea, when the Magi, who are astronomers slash Magi, magus, from the word magus, which means they studied the stars, the constellations, they read signs. When they're from like Babylon. When their stars aligned in such a way after Jesus was born that they believed following this one constellation would bring us to the Messiah of the Jews, they got excited. You know, it's a little phrase. They went and see Jesus and Mary, and they went to the house. They didn't go to the stable. As beautiful as this is, and most of the stables in the presepio that we make, the Magi weren't there the night Jesus was born. They came years later. Jesus could have been 5 years old when they came. But they traveled for those years. They didn't take a jet, they didn't take a train, they took camels across the desert from Babylon way down to Nazareth. But they had a mission to come in contact with this Messiah. And when Herod hears that, you read it, you heard it, he was disturbed. Disturbed, he was absolutely a maniac. No king is going to be born in my kingdom. I'm the king. He killed his son, more than one son. He killed his wife because they threatened his throne. We're talking about treacherous times in which Jesus was born and the Messiah was revealed and the Magi came to him. Treacherous times. And this mosaic continues, this beautiful picture. And it's not always calm and soothing like "Oh Holy Night" or "Silent Night." Nah, not at all. It was tough. And into that tough world, the baby, Messiah, was born. God's gift to us. As the Magi brought him gold, frankincense, and myrrh, God gives him to us. He's our king. He's our Messiah. And we don't split him up. He's one for all of us. The answer to our prayers. He answers our prayers. He hears our prayers. He knows our hearts. This is the Messiah that we come to worship and venerate today. And the gifts, St. Irenaeus in around 4th century said those gifts weren't just arbitrary gifts. They were gifts ordained by God to give to the Messiah by strangers, by outsiders, by Gentiles. Gold, even now, the greatest element on the market. For kings, for royalty, to get things done. He was a king. Maybe 5, 6 years old, but he was a king. Frankincense. As we incense the altar, and I incense the congregation and the scriptures, it reminds us of the raising up of our hearts and minds to God. And only God is worthy of incense. The rest of us gather in prayer to worship God, and our prayer rises up with the incense and myrrh. The saddest of gifts. Myrrh is the equivalent of wrapping the dead body and embalming it for death, for the grave. Myrrh preserved the body and laid down the elements of perfume on a dead, rotting body. Expensive. Another one of those elements from the trees, like incense was. And these magi, astrologers, sometimes called kings because of Isaiah's prophecy, the kings will come from all over. These magi, I don't know if they really knew what they were doing, but they were able to manifest Christ to you and me through these gifts. Oh, the gold made a lot of sense. I can imagine Joseph saying, "Oh, great, this will take us to our trip back home. We'll have enough food and money for a while." And the incense, well, that's good. They used to go to the temple. Who knows if they brought some to the temple to worship God in the temple and give it to the priests? I don't know. But myrrh? You're giving a baby myrrh? Myrrh that was wrapped up around the dead body in a shroud? You're giving that to a baby? Boy, they knew more than they knew. Because that little child would be wrapped in a cloth, taken from the cross, and put into the arms of his mother someday. That child was Jesus Christ. Today we celebrate the manifestation of Christ to all people, to the world. You realize at the beginning of Mass, we incensed the crib. That brought me back to when I was a high school, grammar school kid in Jersey City, in Altaboy. On the 6th, which is the day of Epiphany, we would take the baby Jesus out of the crib and process him through the altar, through the church, and then that would be the end of the Christmas season. At home, we would do the same thing, and I loved it. If the tree was real, we took it down well before this day because it was dry. But my family would allow me to keep the manger up until the Epiphany. And then we'd wrap up all the figures, the little figures that you have under your tree, as well as these. The church has changed the end of the Christmas season now after Vatican II. It goes on until the purification of Mary. We'll talk about that another time. But the memories that come back in this vast mosaic, still revealing to us personally, as a family, as a church, and as a universe, the manifestation, the showing of Christ to all people. Now you and I continue that revelation.